Hello and welcome. Hi, my name is Charles, and I'm not your typical painter. Today, I have my painting that I've been working on for a while, and I've crossed some difficult moments recently, and that's pretty much some of the distant buildings, pretty much. As I paint the detail in the distance, one thing I do is I pay attention to the edges. You don't want like really hard edges in the distance. You want them to be very soft and blurry to an extent. That way you could show depth. You want to have some sharp lines to define certain things like fields and so on. But like the trees in the distance, they're blurry. Yeah, those are trees. This area here I'm popping back into later. It's a little too sharp, because if you make it too sharp it looks like it's closer, and that's not what you're trying to do when you're creating a landscape. You have to kind of like show the distance, and you can't show distance unless you have blur in the background, muted colors. And when it comes to like things up close, you want them to be as sharp as possible. One of the things I do when I attack these little buildings in the distance is I zoom in very closely into the photo, and that's one thing that's nice when you are using a digital photo, that you could actually zoom in. If you have like a regular photo, what are you going to do? Use a magnifying glass? Besides that, you could actually like zoom in and get like a really good look into the area that you're working on and follow that through. As I do the detail, I pretty much kind of have to use certain landmarks as a reference, whether it's going to be a certain building, a certain patch of land. That'll pretty much be a reference, whether it's going to be a little to the north or a little to the south of the painting. But in the end, everything should kind of interlock. As for the level of accuracy, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. But again, I know I'm not going to be perfect. I did use a grid at the beginning to try to get these main structures and bridges and patches of land in the right spot. But the rest of it's in freestyle in some form of way, where there's going to be margin of error pretty much on my behalf, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And honestly, that's what makes a painting. Because if I just wanted to be as realistic as possible, I would just print it out like photo. But again, I'm going to try to capture as much detail as possible, because in the end, it's going to look very interesting if people could spot out certain things in the painting if they're from the area. And even for those people who are not familiar with the city, I kind of want to give people in the end something to look at and something to explore, so they could like have their eyes wander throughout the painting and be like, oh look, there is a bridge there. Oh look, wow, there's actually little buildings there. This is awesome. That's what my whole goal in the end is, where when people look at this painting, they're not just going to look at it for 1 second or two, like, and just like walk right by it. It's going to be something that they're going to explore and see, and maybe like see something new every day. Also, for color, the color has to be more on the muted side. So in ways, white is a color I use to dull out things, as well as bluish, greenish, pretty much colors that will mute a color. I start with base colors and then make little variations as I go through, where in some ways I don't even use a palette knife. I use actually my brush to mix the color, because sometimes you need several variations of a certain color, and because it might be slightly different, might be slightly more red, slightly more blue, and so on, and it's not worth mixing a whole batch. But I'm still in debate on background mountains, if I should like make them more on the bluer side or more on the greener side. I've yet to decide. I'm just going to wait for the rest of the painting to go through, and then in the end I might make some judgment calls on the overall color scheme. Because originally I kind of liked the greenish look they had in the early stages. The mountains, that is. The mountains looking kind of on the greenish side and reddish side, I thought was better than what they are now.
I'm not gonna lie, the little detail kind of very stressful to work. I take multiple breaks during the process, and I do have a plan B. Like, I've done this recently with other paintings where when I reach a point where I'm like stuck and I just need to take a break, I start another painting. I'm probably going to still continue working on it a little longer. I haven't reached that sticking point just yet. But when I do, I will begin a new painting. Smaller scale though, not that large. Something a lot quicker. I could get it done maybe in a few weeks. But anyway, thanks for watching. Again, my name's Charles. I go by Bob. And I'm not your typical painter.